Welcome to America's Top Rebbetzins. May this class be for Rafua Shalema, for Shlomo Aaron ben Sarah Hana. We are honored to have on today's show Rebbetzin Chaya Malka Abramson. Rebbetzin Chaya Malka has a very interesting story. She started out as a budding fashion designer living in Connecticut. Then she moved to Israel, where she was involved in a horrific fire that caused her to have severe burns over 85% of her body as she repeatedly went back into her burning apartment to rescue her 3 children and her grandmother. She was given a 1 in 10 chance of survival. Her family and friends, they rallied around her with fervent prayers. They gave charity. They did acts of loving kindness, and miraculously, her life was spared and she survived. Baruch Hashem. Rebbetzin Chaya Malka wrote about her powerful story in her book, Who by Fire. That's the name of her book, Who by Fire. She also started the Chaya Malka Burn Foundation, which helps Jewish burn patients in Israel and abroad by raising money for costly treatments and also helping the burn victims resume a normal lifestyle. Wow, you have really been through a lot. Please tell us your story.
So just give me a time frame, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
You could talk for as long as you want, maybe 20 minutes even.
Okay. So I was, you want to hear the story of the book? Like, the fire. So I was 30 years old.
Yes.
I had 3 little children. I had become religious 5 years before that. And I was at Ann Hartzion, which after traveling in Europe, my sister and I were in this like little Italian city, and there were like stones, cobblestones and narrow streets, and like laundry hanging up from the windows, and it was like really moving me. I was like, wow, I really want to live in a place like this. And about a month later, it wasn't exactly a month later, but about a month later, I ended up becoming religious. Well, coming to Jerusalem, becoming religious, and eventually, when I got married, about 9 months later, there I was living in a place that looked just like that.
Wow.
With these, in a Crusader fortress, and on like second floor, it was actually above King David's tomb, which is where we lived for 5 years. And then the government, they were like rumors, that there was a problem with the building and we were going to have to move. We really didn't think it was going to ever happen. But one day they came with, here it is, the paper, you have 3 days to move.
Yep.
So anyway, I ended up living across the street from now where Sarah Rigler lives.
Oh, yes, in the old city, yes.
In the old city, in Ararat Street. And after 3 weeks, my husband left to go. He was a member of the Diaspora Shiva band. And he left that afternoon around 5 o'clock. And in the early evening, my grandmother comes to spend this last night of her trip with us. And, I said, we had like very, very teary goodbyes and stuff at night, and because she was going to be leaving really early in the morning. So she was the one who gave my sister and I $350, which was no small amount of money at that, 40 years ago. And she said, on your trip to Europe, go to Israel. So so that's how we got there. So we were very indebted to her. My sister also became religious, Baruch Hashem, and Kanai Nahara, she has 9 children, and they're all married and having children, and
beautiful.
Their tribe is just growing.
Beautiful.
Baruch Hashem. And so what happened? All of a sudden, I turned the lights off, locked the door, made sure the kids were covered, went to sleep, said Shema Yisrael, and went to sleep. All of a sudden, it seemed like, 2 seconds later, I hear my grandmother, we called her Nana, screaming, Malka, Malka, I smell gas. So immediately I jumped up, jumped right into the slippers that she had brought me, were ankle high. Okay. And I started like on my mission,
Okay.
find the gas.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, like somebody once, I spoke in Connecticut once on a Shabbos, and this man said, if you had smoke detectors, you wouldn't have to think what you had to do. The smoke detector would have, or the gas detector, or gas detector also would have been, beeping, and it would have woken you up, and it would have said to you, get out, get out, get out. But I was still on this mission. You see, sometimes we have a mission, and when we're supposed to change our mission, we're not thinking. We just, I did stop to think for a second, right before I went into the room filled with gas. And because like the gas hit me, and I was just really overwhelming, and I really didn't know what to do. So, and interestingly enough, the front door to our apartment was right next to me. But years later, when I was learning about trauma therapy to help my burn patients, I was, the guinea pig, and there I was being taken, right to the scene of the crime, and it was like there was no door. It was just like a wall there.
Huh.
At that time, it was like I wasn't thinking at all just to get out at all.
Right.
Anyway, I didn't have any, voices or any, I was waiting, I said, Chaya Malka, stop, think for a second, what should I do? And nothing came to me. So I opened my eyes, and as soon as I opened my eyes, I see the gas heater in the living room, and I was drawn to it. I just went, like I just had to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, trying to see am I supposed to do something there? And then my Nana calls to me. She says, Malka, Malka, open the windows. Okay.
Okay.
So she,
It's okay.
okay, so maybe I'll go back a little bit. Anyway, so Nana, she was in the door where I had just been standing, and she yells to me, Malka, open the windows.
Okay.
So that's not a good thing to do when there's a lot of gas in the room. But I didn't know. I was 30 and she was 78. And so I listened to her. So I turned around, I opened 1, 2, 3 windows, turned around again. All of a sudden, on the whole left side, I heard this whoosh, and everything exploded. All the gas exploded into fire, and it was also on me. So I learned when I was a little girl, stop, drop, and roll.
Yes.
But there was fire everywhere. I didn't find anything that wasn't on fire, a blanket, a towel, or anything to cover myself with. So I did this, that was like, instinctually, and left my fingers out there, pretty much exposed. But, and then I ran, and they, the authorities say, don't run if person's on fire, but it's pretty hard to walk. It's in that situation.
I can imagine.
So I ran. It took about 6 seconds to run to my bedroom, and I dove on my bed. I just went to one side and the other, and I jumped up. I looked down, and my very flammable, flannel nightgown,
yes,
was gone.
Wow.
And I looked in my closet and the door was open. I see a blue fuzzy robe that I had. Now, the fire was December 2nd, 1981. So it was cold. So whatever, I had my warm robe. So I put it on, which you're not supposed to put anything colored or fuzzy over burn, just maybe like a white sheet or something,
That's also good to know. Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't look back. I just left. And I went to check, my children, and my daughter was coughing a little bit, but my son was already awake. So there was a terrible story in Muncie years ago about a woman who left her child in an agala on the porch. And there was like alerts that there were bears maybe it was in the mountains or something, I'm not sure, the Catskills. But so she went in with some children. She left her other child in the agala. When she came back, the child was gone.
Oh, I can't.
And why am I saying this is because I don't know why I didn't take all my children at once. I don't know. But I would say that in an emergency, one should.
Okay, yes.
And in the end, we do not, Hashem decides what's going to be in the end, why did this, why did that, I can't answer all those questions, but that's what I did. Okay, so I took my son, who was 2.5 years old, brought him to the outside, and then came back and gave him to a neighbor. And then Devora was still in the top bunk, and I pulled her down, put her on one side, and we had a little baby, Esther. She was 11 months old, and she had woken up, and she put herself like right at the corner of the crib, as close to the door as possible. And she was wearing this pink pajama sleeper with a zipper in the middle. And I just with my burnt hand, I lifted her up and put her on the other side and ran out with them. Okay. Now I get out there, and there's like this little ramp, and it's like twilight out there, twilight zone. It was like quiet. It was eerie, an eerie feeling. And I'm like looking for my grandmother, and she's not there.
Uh-oh.
Where is she? Where is she? And so I ran back to the house, and there was a soldier standing on the left side. So I was like, "Can you go grab my nana?" I got all excited, and he just went like that. He just shook his head no, and I'm like, okay, when was the last time a soldier didn't want to do something heroic? But it is against the law, the Jewish law, to go into a burning house. I don't hold anything against him, but I did see over his shoulder, I saw into the room, and the flames were up to the ceiling. They filled the room. So I just went right past him, and I saw her standing next to the window. She had opened the window and was breathing heavily in my room. And I said, "Come on, Nana, we're going." And I just sort of, gently pulled her arm a little bit. And she came with me. We just went out together.
Amazing.
And it was cold out there. And there was all of a sudden a lot of action, almost can you bring us blankets? And, somebody said, my son sure wanted to sit with me. So I sat down on the stairs, and then there was a girl, didn't want to come down, and people didn't know how to get out. And it was all this action that was and people didn't know what happened. Was it a terror attack? Or, there was all this smoke that rose up from the windows, and it rose up, the whole side of the building. So people didn't know it was okay to go up to the roof like that. Was that an okay, escape route? Anyway, Baruch Hashem, after a little while, got quiet again. And I looked down at my thumb, this thumb. Oh boy, that doesn't look good, but okay. This is not a, this was burnt, but this is not a burn. It's like a skin thing. But anyway, this thumb, the skin was like that. It was just attached to the fingernail, and it looked like a piece of burnt chicken skin.
Oh,
It was just attached here, and I looked at it, and I'm like, oh no, my life's never going to be the same. And it wasn't. And it was like a lot of work, a lot of pain, and for years. But Baruch Hashem, like, I made it.
Baruch
Survived.
Hashem, it's amazing, really. Wow. Wow. And so you started, so after the fire, so you recover, you took a while to recover. How long did it take you to recover after this?
Well, I'm still recovering, meaning I still have some scars.
Okay.
I don't have like emotional scars, or like, I have some physical scars. And I don't know, I like found some kind of organic oil that somebody that I know in the old city is selling, and I started using it on my face, and it like really made it look even nicer.
Oh, that's a perk. Okay, it's great.
So I'm 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 30, I had a lot of scars. So I had already I sort of went through the process of like what must be like to get old and to have to deal with things that are like unexpected, let's say. Like, no one really expects wrinkles. And then when they come, it's like, oh, okay. So anyway, I was 4 months in the hospital in Kerem, Hadassah and Kerem, and then home for a couple of weeks, and then 2 months in a rehabilitation center in Har Sofim, Hadassah, Mount Scopus. And then after that, I was like a year and a half going 5 days a week, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I had a baby.
Oh, wow. Myself. Oh my gosh. Wow.
2 years, almost exactly 2 years after the fire.
It's amazing. That's like truly, truly a miracle. It's amazing.
And it really, like, I was very, very thin. And I was so thin, I was like calling people and asking them, what I could eat to make me fat, but I didn't like to eat. I mean, I knew ice cream wasn't good for me. I already went through that, another scenario with that. But so it was a hard thing. But I was pregnant, and I had to have I was wearing this called a job suit, and today they call it a pressure garment. Yes. Where it's very ugly. They were only they weren't black then those days. They're like ugly skin color. Yes. And I wore a whole mask. I just had 2 like openings for my eyes, little for my nose and mouth, and maybe for my ear, a little hole for my ear or something. And it closed in the back with the Velcro. Yep. And it came down to here. Let's see, I was wearing a turtleneck, bigger than this, taller than this, folded over. So there were 4 layers of material, and every place where I was wearing something, it protected my skin. So over here, you see, I have no scars over here. Amazing. On my neck. Yes. And the same thing happened with my grandmother's slippers that she brought me. That protected my feet.
That's very important, though. It's really, really important. If you had burn marks on your feet, you might not have been able to run. Right. Right. It would have been, I don't know. In Israel, we'll say pee time, the recovery, like to have to look. I had to, because I had skin grafts on my legs, I had 3 times I had to learn to walk again. Right.
And every time I remember the feeling, putting my legs down over the bed and then having the blood like it hurt to have the blood like flowing down, through my feet, through my legs. And then I had to like walk with help, with a walker, with it was like so slow. And I had to do it 3 times. So I can't imagine what it would have been like if also my feet were burnt.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
I have grandchildren in South Africa, so I was just curious, but I asked them, do you know how many bones are in foot? They knew 70.
Amazing. Wow.
70 bones. So you can imagine, and just a little bit of skin.
Right.
How it
Yeah.
all coordinates. So
Oh,
I'm very thankful, like they say that, to be grateful for everything you have. It's like
yes.
a work of a lifetime. It does not end.
No, for sure. No. And we always have to be grateful. And it's really your survival, your recovery, the fact that you're even here today, 40 years later to tell the story is really, it's nothing short of a miracle. And also not only did you survive the fire, but you turned this tragedy into a triumph. You really did, because you started the Chaya Malka Burn Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so just yesterday, I was talking to somebody who happened to mention this woman's name, who lives in London now. I won't say her name, but she was pregnant and she got burnt and she got depressed and she didn't want to talk to anybody. And one day I get a phone call. This was in 2003. I didn't have a foundation then. I just, my husband and I used to go to visit burn patients in the beginning, and then I used to go by myself. And this woman calls me and she tells me the story about her daughter. So I said, no problem, I'll come over. And, it was also a little hard for me also because I was a late bloomer.
Okay.
And everything I'm doing today is like, I learned how to do it. I didn't, I don't know. I didn't learn very much when I was younger. I knew how to smile and I was very sweet and cute, but I really grew up thinking that I was stupid.
Oh.
Because one person, one time called me stupid.
That's
And,
awful.
I learned something interesting about the brain, which I tell also my burn patients. And that is this: the brain, which I used to think, wow, the brain, intelligence, the brain does not know that truth. And it doesn't know what's false and what's true. So what does it know? What you believe.
Right. Yes.
And what people tell you that you believe. Okay. So like you could learn something and you could believe it about yourself or but that's it. It doesn't, it doesn't have like a higher intelligence. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Hashem put his, I don't know. It's not like the neshama has a different
Right.
level of understanding,
Yes.
the soul, but the brain doesn't. And I thought that's very interesting. So I tell people all the time, one thing I tell the parents, make sure doctors don't tell prognosis in front of your children, because children, all they know is how to absorb things and they don't know if it's positive or negative yet. And usually the doctors say things, unfortunately, I hope if there's any doctors listening, I apologize, but they've done tests and they did, tests, and they switched one time 2 people's prognosis of cancer. And the one that was supposed to live died, and the one that was supposed to die lived, because all the people treated them. The one that was thought they were going to die, they treated them like that, and the ones
Right.
that were supposed to live, they treated them like that. And one thing about my amazing thing is that Hashem did not send anybody to visit me who couldn't handle how I looked. They were only positive people. And
Such a blessing.
yeah, like I used to think, oh, if someone's going to die, you need to tell them. But I do not believe that anymore. And I think that we can't, we don't know what's the future, and neither do doctors. So, just be positive and just, I mean, I knew that there was a possibility that I could die. And because of that, I asked myself, like, so what do you want to live for? And what came up, like, those old cash registers, just press the button and right?
Yes.
What came up was on one side to be the wife to my husband, to finish the job being the wife to my husband. And the other side, the mother to my 3 young children.
Amazing.
And that was it. Like, I did want to become a fashion designer one day. I had whatever, I don't know, women like to have careers and be famous. And that's how I grew up. Like, you have to be beautiful, brilliant, and famous. And if you didn't, and rich. Oh, that was what our media, was putting out there. And if you weren't those, I don't know, you were in trouble.
Right.
But really, most of those are brachas from Hashem, And what we have left to do is to, like, take what Hashem gave us and to be happy with it and go forward, So that's what I tried to do. It like everything, it was like a small, ball that slowly rolled down like a valley, not quite a mountain, but it just kept going, And when that lady that I went to visit, so after that visit, so my friend called me, and so she said, so hi, how you doing? What'd you do today? So I told her I went to visit this person, and the husband of the wife, as we're walking out the door, he, like, how sometimes, like, my father used to do it, like, we used to call it, he stood me some money. Yeah. He, like, tried to push in my hand some money, So the husband tried to, give me some money, let's say, whatever, something for a cab or whatever. Right. And I was so embarrassed, I could not take it. And when my friend, I told her the story, she said, Chaya Malka, you need to start a foundation so that people can help you do what almost no one could do.
Amazing. Such a great idea. Really, really a great idea, because you have the firsthand perspective. You went through a fire, you went through being burned, you went through the recovery, you went through everything emotionally, physically, you went through it. So you come from such a perspective that you can really, really help others. You can empathize with them, you can sympathize them, you can guide them into their treatments and their post-recovery. And it's really fantastic. And I know that you have a burn hotline. I will post it when I put up the podcast. I'll put the burn hotline in the description so people can contact you.
Okay.
Yes. And I also know that the Burn Foundation has a magnet that you give out with the immediate tips on what to do if you have a burn. Can you share some of those tips with us?
Sure. So these are not medically approved tips.
That's okay.
But why do I do them and promote them is because they work. They work, they're fast. They prevent trauma, pain, hospital trips, doctor trips. They just save time and money and anguish. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the first thing, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I network with a lot of people who help people with burns. And I traveled in America for 20 years with telling my story. And I met a lot of people also in Canada, whatever. I met people in Europe. And so I have a list. Like, I was always running, why don't these people personify themselves? And I realized that because what they're doing is not legal, you see. So they don't put themselves out there so much.
Mhm.
So what I do is I made a list, and I keep getting more, every week, a month, a few months, I get another name of someone else in some other, either in another country or in another city in Israel, who knows about burns, who does, to helps. And this woman who called me yesterday, her future daughter-in-law got terribly burned on her back, and she's supposed to get married in 5 weeks. So
Wow.
she called me, and then she was telling me about this woman in England who somehow she knew that I had helped her, well, many, many, many years ago. Anyway, it's so interesting. So she told me about somebody that I didn't know. So whatever, I just keep adding to my list. So let's say I have a friend, a woman who encouraged me to start the foundation. She calls me from Florida, and she says, Chaya Malka, somebody here got burned. They want to know where can we get creams?
Right.
So I sent her the number, the email, whatever, and they make the connection. They send it in the mail. They get it, whatever, overnight mail, and that's what I do. And
But
what
there's some
else?
like really interesting tips, like about potatoes. Like if you
Oh,
get
okay,
burned.
yeah.
Yes.
So the thing is this: the most important thing that I learned in the past 10 years is not to use water. Now this
No
is
water on burns.
Hatzalah, Mata, they all use water. Now I spoke once to a Hatzalah person, and I asked them, well, what do you do? So somebody calls, they say, so put it in water for 10 minutes, till Hatzalah arrives. Say, okay. But I had many burns after my burn because I love to cook and I'm always busy. And, Friday, almost, or it's Friday or Erev, Erev Chag, Erev, a holiday. And so it's really all about being more careful, doing, working a little slower, especially around things that are hot. Okay.
Yeah.
And not being so confident. You know what I mean? When you're confident, you just like, anyway, just like, just slow down. So I have had, I don't know, let's say even 5 burns. One was really bad and it opened the skin here, like the size of a nickel, a quarter, size of a quarter. All I did was touch one little place, and over here I have skin grafts, and skin grafts are very thin. So it burned in 1 second. It just melted,
Oh.
and it was excruciating. So in the past, what I would do with a closed burn is I would run for the saran wrap, cut a piece off, and make sure to have a box that has a good top, that has either like a slide rule over there or something that you close it and you can easily get your saran wrap. Okay, not something that like you have to fiddle with for a minute in order, to get it out. So you put the saran wrap right on it.
Right on the burn.
You don't wrap it like a gift. You don't, like let's say you have a soup and you want to go to your neighbors for Shabbos or something, or your relatives for Shabbos. You have a soup, you're taking a soup and you wrap it, that way. No, we don't do that. Because sometimes when you say wrap it with saran wrap, people think the more the merrier, and it's not at all. Okay,
It's okay.
Okay, sorry. I thought I turned that down. Okay. So sorry. So you just put it on. Sometimes, like if it's at the tip of the finger, I just put it on it, I just wrap it around, I try to use as little as possible, but cover the burn. So, but if it's on a flat area, sometimes you need, I use sometimes Scotch tape. And and if I don't have anything, I just hold it. If it's like a small, smallish burn. Okay.
You hold the saran wrap over it or just your hand over it?
Yeah, you can hold the saran wrap over it.
Okay.
The saran, you can hold it down. Okay.
With your hand. Okay.
But usually I'm so busy, I want to keep going. So I want to and the thing is, it's also very good to be distracted, because when you're distracted, you don't feel the pain so much.
Yes.
Okay. We're talking about excruciating. It doesn't matter if it's a first, second, or third degree burn. It's usually excruciating. And there are sometimes burns that are so little that you go like, that was nothing. But those are burns that you forget, one forgets about. Those could be the burns that after 10 minutes, all of a sudden they start hurting.
Yes.
So anytime anybody touches something hot, they should really put saran wrap on it. And in 10 minutes, it's gone. Do you hear that? In 10 minutes for an adult or for a teenagers and over, like from, I would say, I don't know, 11 years old and up. It's amazing. In 10 minutes, the burn's gone. If it didn't open or blister, okay? That means any first or second degree burn, mostly, the saran wrap draws out the heat.
Okay, that's important. Very important. So you take the saran wrap.
And what's the pain from? It's from the heat of the burn.
Right.
I don't know how it works. I still don't know how it works, but it works.
So you take the saran wrap and you put it on the burn and you hold it over, you hold your hand over the saran wrap, which is covering the burn, and you hold it for about how long?
10 minutes.
About 10 minutes.
Okay. I'll say 15 minutes, but for me, it always worked in 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, fine. So you hold it.
So you don't have to hold, you could hold it down with Scotch tape or some other tape or something,
And in 10, 15 minutes,
you don't have to hold it with your hand, but in case you don't, I don't know, like there's also other interesting things. Okay. So usually it's finished by then. If it was open, that burn that I had that was open, it also, the pain was gone in 10 minutes.
Amazing.
I mean, I've had people call me to ask me, that there's a child got burned. I hear screaming in the background. When did this burn happen? An hour ago.
Oh.
So a child is screaming for an hour. If you know what to do, it is so easy. Okay. And you could distract kids with whatever you could put here. What's it called? Rescue remedy here and here, or for older people or people who don't want to drink anything, or I don't know. That's also very calming, and talk to them calmly. You could put it on yourself too, because emergency situations they get us all riled up.
Yes.
And so it's very good to deep breathe and say positive things. This is getting better. The other interesting thing that I do, which I heard from somebody who does biokinesiology, that I read about this also in a religious magazine called Hamodia, and I've been using it for years. And it's like this most amazing tip that if a child falls or gets a burn or whatever, they get a knock somewhere, and it's on the right side of their body. You go like this around your ear.
Can you just move your hand in a circular motion around your ear? Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. And if it's on the left side, you do it with your left hand. Mm-hmm. And if it's in the middle of the body, you do both. You make circular motions around without touching the ear, around the ear. And what it does, I didn't know what it does. I tried it once and it was amazing. It really worked. I once kicked the back of my ankle. I somehow got it in the door of the fridge, and it's very sensitive over there. And it was really in 1 minute or so of doing that, it just the pain went away. I didn't have a black and blue mark, nothing. It was just amazing. So also for kids, let's say a child falls or whatever, they get, I don't know, and the mother's holding them or someone's holding them. So while they're holding them, you can do that. And it's so
make them soothe them. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. It's soothing because so one time I was at a wedding and I met this woman who had once went to for some do this kinesiology, and she said, I asked her, what is that? What is that? She said, what it does is it repairs the aura.
Wow.
There is such a thing, Rabbi Zalman Cohen talks about it in his book called The coming revolution, all about how science is now acknowledging some things that the Torah, that are in the Torah, and that's one of the things that everybody has an aura around their body,
Yes.
and when a person does a mitzvah, the aura, the colors change. It's really interesting. So this woman told me that when you do that action with the hand around the ear, the circling the ear, that it repairs the aura. So I understood from that when somebody falls or gets hurt, the aura somehow is broken.
Right. It suffers.
I don't know. I'm not an expert on auras, but
Yes.
that's what I could tell you. And
It's amazing.
that is one of the most amazing tools or tips, whatever, that I use all the time.
I appreciate that. That's very, very helpful. Actually, I really appreciate that. I'm actually going to try that in my own life with the taking your hand and circling around the ear for repairing auras and soothing. You're so inspiring, and we can really all learn so much about you and from the way that you handle this challenging situation. You didn't let getting burned over the majority of your body defeat you. You fought hard. Hashem helped you, and you survived. Baruch Hashem. And now you turned your tragedy into a triumph by helping others who are in a similar situation as you were in. So kol hakavod to you. Rebbetzin Chaya Malka Abramson's book is called Who by Fire, and you can find it on Amazon. Thank you so much, Rebbetzin Chaya Malka, for taking the time to join us on America's Top Rebbetzins. We really appreciate having you here. And may all the learning we did today be for a refuah shalema for Shlomo Aaron Ben Sarah Hannah. If anyone has any questions or comments about the podcast, or if anyone would like to sponsor a future podcast, please email us at atrebbetzins@gmail.com. That's atrebbetzins@gmail.com. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.